Human history on the Indian subcontinent is a breathing, dynamic organism. Over 7,000 years, societies here have expanded, contracted, and evolved, reacting to their environment and to each other. Around 4,600 years ago, that pulse generated genuine cities. The Indus Valley civilization spanned a geographical area larger than contemporary Egypt or Mesopotamia, stretching from modern-day Afghanistan into Western India. These cities featured rigorous grid planning, standardized baked bricks, and advanced drainage systems. Yet archaeologists haven't found a single grand palace, royal tomb, or monument to a specific ruler. Instead of absolute rulers, this vast society relied on an integrated trade network and a standardized communication system. They used thousands of these tiny seals, stamped with animal motifs and a brief, precise script that remains undeciphered today. The Indus Valley establishes a unique baseline for the subcontinent. Its first massive urban society was built on collective civic engineering and decentralized trade, rather than top-down authoritarianism. That system eventually faltered. Around 1900 BCE, shifting river paths, including the drying of the Ghaggar-Hakra River, and failing monsoons forced populations to abandon the grand cities, creating a power vacuum. Into this shifting landscape arrived the Indo-Aryans. These nomadic pastoralists migrated from Central Asia in waves, bringing horse-drawn chariots, an early form of the Sanskrit language, and a massive oral repository of hymns known as the Vedas. As these tribes pushed eastward into the dense jungles of the Ganges Plain, they traded nomadic herding for settled Iron Age agriculture. This shift necessitated a new social organization, resulting in the birth of the Varna system, a framework that categorized people into 4 distinct social classes. Over a few centuries, those initial functional categories hardened into a strict social hierarchy. The subcontinent's historical pendulum was moving away from scattered villages and toward powerful, centralized states. By the 6th century BCE, the Ganges Plain was dominated by 16 major competing kingdoms and republics, known as the Mahajanapadas. As these cities grew wealthier, social unrest began to brew against the exclusionary Vedic rituals and the growing political dominance of the priestly class. This unrest fueled the Shramana movement, a wave of intellectual rebellion led by figures like Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, and Vardhamana Mahavira, the founder of Jainism. They taught that personal liberation required moral discipline and self-control, offering a spiritual path that bypassed the caste system. While philosophers debated, kings consolidated power. The Nanda dynasty and Magadha built a massive army supported by a heavy taxation system. They created the institutional machinery of an empire, which a young leader named Chandragupta Maurya soon hijacked to overthrow them and unify northern India. The Mauryan military machine reached its peak under Chandragupta's grandson, Ashoka, but after conquering the region of Kalinga, a campaign that left over 100,000 dead, Ashoka was consumed by remorse. He abruptly abandoned military expansion, converted to Buddhism, and dedicated his state to the promotion of Dhamma, a policy of nonviolence, social welfare, and moral duty. The Mauryan military machine proved the subcontinent could be physically unified under a single administration, but Ashoka's shift to Dhamma suggests that long-term stability relied on a shared moral framework as much as a standing army. When the Mauryan Empire eventually fractured after Ashoka's death, India didn't plunge into a dark age. Instead, this political fragmentation turned the subcontinent into a cultural and economic sponge. A power vacuum in the northwest invited waves of new arrivals, including the Indo-Greeks and later the Kushans from Central Asia. Rather than destroying what they found, these rulers integrated themselves, blending their Hellenistic and nomadic traditions directly with local Indian beliefs. You can see this cultural blending perfectly in the art of the Gandhara school. Sculptors began depicting the Buddha using classical Greek techniques, giving him realistic facial features and flowing toga-like drapery. Economically, the Kushan Empire positioned itself as the anchor of the emerging Silk Road. They facilitated an exchange of goods and ideas across Eurasia, minting gold coins that displayed Greek lettering right alongside figures of the Buddha and Hindu deities. Meanwhile, in the Deep South, the Tamil-speaking regions were experiencing their own golden era, known as the Sangam Age. The Chola, Pandya, and Chera kingdoms built immensely wealthy maritime trading networks, exporting spices and pearls to the Roman Empire while developing rich literary traditions. This period of political decentralization was actually India's most globally connected era. The lack of a single, rigid empire allowed regional powers to experiment, trade freely, and incubate innovations in art, faith, and commerce. By the early 4th century CE, the pendulum swung back toward the center. The Gupta dynasty emerged in the Ganges plain, unifying vast stretches of northern India and beginning a period of stability and cultural codification. This animation illustrates the calculations of Aryabhata, a mathematician in the Gupta court. Amidst an intellectual explosion that perfected classical Sanskrit literature, Aryabhata calculated the value of pi, treated 0 as a placeholder, and proposed that the Earth rotates on its own axis. Religion also underwent a structural shift. The Guptas championed a resurgence of Puranic Hinduism, centered on devotion to deities like Vishnu and Shiva. Worship moved away from temporary open-air altars and into permanent, elaborately carved stone structures, like the Dashavatara temple at Deogar. The Guptas established the aesthetic, scientific, and religious standards that functioned as the baseline for the next 1,000 years of Indian history. Eventually, the Gupta Empire collapsed under the weight of Central Asian Huna invasions, returning the subcontinent to a patchwork of regional kingdoms. But the cultural momentum they had generated could no longer be stopped. Regional rulers, particularly in the south, began an architectural arms race. They carved spectacular cave temples directly into the living rock at Badami, using these massive public works to project both political power and religious piety. This pursuit culminated in the towering, stepped pyramidal structures of the Dravidian style, captured by the shore temple at Mahabalipuram overlooking the sea. But alongside these grand monuments arose the Bhakti movement. Poet-saints traveling from village to village sang in local languages, prioritizing a direct, passionate, emotional connection with the divine over rigid caste hierarchies and priestly rituals. By the time the political map shifted again with the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate in the 13th century, the new Islamic rulers did not encounter a blank slate. They met a highly complex, deeply rooted civilization with thousands of years of intellectual and architectural infrastructure already in place. The recurring tension between centralizing empires and independent regional states produced a civilization defined by its capacity for synthesis. This ancient pulse created the pluralistic identity that remains the foundation of the subcontinent today.